Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this special webinar just for tribal colleges and universities regarding our 2020 request for applications. TCUs have always been eligible for these funds, but we wanted to make a special outreach and talk specifically about issues that may be relevant in your sphere. You can join us for a full webinar on our next two dates. Those are May 21st and May 28th with the full details. But today we're going to give you an overview that we think will be important for TCUs. Joining me today is the American Indian College Fund, and we're very happy to have Emily Whitehat and Kendra Teague with us. They will chime in as it pertains to TCUs and give a welcome in a bit. I also have my colleagues, Dr. Joe Graham and Tony Stanger McLaughlin, who are going to share about NAAF grant opportunities. This webinar is recorded and will be available for you later for review, as well as the PowerPoint. So let's get started. First of all, questions are welcome. Please send them in. You can submit your questions via the questions box on your GoToWebinar control panel. It should be below audio and webcam. Just open that up and write your question. We're going to collect questions till the end, and then we'll allow the person to respond to you. If you have specific questions and those require more detail or more time, please reach out to us either by phone or by email. Our email is grants, grants, at nativeamericanagriculturefund.org, and our phone number is 479-445-6226. Let's start with the overview, and I realize I don't think I introduced myself. My name's Carly Moore, and I'm an Associate Program Officer at Native American Agriculture Fund. And NAAF was created from the final Cypre Fund settlement of Keeps Eagle v. Vilsack. In this class action lawsuit, Native farmers and ranchers alleged discrimination from USDA in lending practices. They won a settlement in 2010, and the final settlement that created NAAF was executed in July 2018. NAAF is a private charitable trust that is entrusted with making strategic grants across the country for Native agriculture for a period of 20 years. That's how our trust agreement outlines it, and it guides us in our actions. You can reach it on our website. The funds were transferred to NAAF in December 2018, and our first RFA launched in August of 2019. We funded 80 project applicants and over 100 discrete projects. We seek to fund a wide variety of projects in 2020. We have 8 different categories, and we'll go over some of those today. We welcome input along the way. We have a survey instrument on our website that helps us hear directly from Native farmers, ranchers, educational professionals, and others. Our mission is in our Trust Agreement Section 7. The Trust mission shall be to make grants to eligible grant recipients, we'll talk about those later, to fund the provision of business assistance, agricultural education, technical support, and advocacy services to Native American farmers and ranchers to support their continued engagement in agriculture. Our trustees who oversee NAAF are listed here. There are 14 trustees. Our chair is Elsie Meeks, and our vice chair is Richard Williams. You can find more information about them on our website. Our RFA timeline. So we opened the 2020 RFA on Wednesday, April 1st, and it will close on Monday, June 1st, 2020 at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. There is a flexibility period if you're facing issues related to COVID-19. Maybe you're not in the office and you can't get signatures as easy, or you're having a hard time tracking down a person who needs to authorize something. Let us know, and we're happy to extend that deadline to Monday, June 15, 2020 at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. The key here is that you have to submit something by June 1st. If you submit something by June 1st, even if it's incomplete, and reach out to us quickly, then we will give opportunity to make the application whole. Our webinar series, we've scheduled 5. 2 more are coming up, Thursday, May 21st and Thursday, May 28th. Those are going to be very similar to what we go over today, but you're welcome to join and ask questions there too.
Hey, Carly.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, I just wanted to say hi to everybody. This is Janie. And I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us today for the walkthrough, just for the tribal colleges and universities. And so we're very excited to do this with y'all today. And we hope that we have a lot of applications from the tribal colleges and universities and begin and maintain a dialogue with you all about how we can improve how we reach out to you all to make sure that you know that you're eligible for sure, but also how we can work together to make sure that the educational pieces that sit up under our food people, no matter whether they're doing traditional foods or food sovereignty work or anything related to food production, food systems, and agriculture and fisheries, is well versed and well incorporated into NAAF's work. And so I just wanted to interrupt because I'm like triple, quadruple booked today, but I did want to say hello to everybody and make sure that y'all know that we're anxiously awaiting working with you all as NAAF moves forward. So thanks, and I'll turn it back to you, Carly.
Thank you, Janie. And that reminds me that I wanted to give Emily from American Indian College Fund an opportunity to do a welcome as well. So if you just bear with us, folks, we'll get back to the content. But Emily, can you do a greeting for us?
Sure. Hamidakiapi chantewashtaanape chuzape. Welcome, everybody. This is Emily Whitehat. I am with the American Indian College Fund. I'm the Vice President of Programs. I work with the team at the College Fund that does place-based intergenerational programming work with the tribal colleges and universities. We really appreciate the support of the Native American Agriculture Fund as a partner and also as a grantee, as one of their grantees. We appreciate the opportunity to be able to get the word out more across the tribal colleges and universities, and really hope that you all will consider applying for grants. As we feel we can give examples, we'll do so. Or if you have any questions, please reach out to the team. We in the past have participated in webinars as well as the application process from the Native American Agriculture Fund, and they are great about responsiveness and answering questions as they are able as you go through the application process. So we just thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, Janie, Joe, Tony, and Carly for giving us this time. Pilamayape.
Thank you, Emily. So I mentioned before, flexibility closing date, and this slide just explains that a bit more. Again, the key is we are welcome to work with you. We know that everybody's having a hard time working because things are not normal. So if you need this time, let us know as soon as possible and we'll make it available. And eligible grant recipients, so we have 4 eligible grant recipients. Those are 501c3 organizations, tribes, educational organizations, and CDFIs. Of course, today we've specially invited tribal colleges and universities. You are an eligible grant recipient. One other thing we'd like to cover, grants to fiscal sponsors. So if you know of organizations out there who would like to apply but do not have their own 501c3 status yet, we know that takes a bit of time to acquire. They're still welcome to apply as long as they use a fiscal sponsor. Another option is that somebody may approach you to be a fiscal sponsor for their organization and know that that is available. Just talk with us and we'll help iron out those details. At this time, I'd like to pass the presenter privileges to my colleague, Dr. Joe Graham, to talk about utilizing the term agriculture for TCUs.
Thank you, Carly. Kawatsi hopa hanu. Tawashrap. Wahinume, Dr. Joe Graham. I'm Joe Graham. Greetings, everyone. Greetings not only to you, but to the people you're representing. And I hope you're all doing well wherever you are this afternoon. We put this section in here because although I don't think that the 1862s think about it very much as agriculture as a charged term, but a lot of tribes and tribal people, individuals, for them, agriculture is very much a charged term. And whether it comes from a historical application of agriculture, whether it was through government policy, schooling, religion, we're not going to get into all of that, but there is some juice around the term. And so I wanted to see if it was a question of terminology, how the tribal colleges and universities and the 1862s are connecting around education and agriculture. So I was looking at the different TCU programs, and I identified 8 different colleges, schools, or departments at tribal colleges, and of those, only 1 was an agriculture department. Of the associate's degrees and certificate programs out there, if you look at the first line there, only 7 of them are agriculture programs. Although the second one, where it says 15, the number, I want you to look at this graph here. See if I can get that to come up. The 15 number is specialized ag sciences, things like veterinary or farrier, that are sciences and science programs or certificate programs that are specifically in ag science. But if you look at this little pie graph that I have up there, you'll see that from about 10 o'clock till midnight on that little circle there, those are general science programs. But everything else falls under the broader heading of agriculture, although they may not be called agriculture programs. Natural resources and environmental science are both agriculture programs at most universities. And then when we look at the bachelor's degrees, only 2 of the bachelor's degrees were in agriculture, and one of them was in ag science. It seems like the environmental science is where most of the programs at the tribal colleges are. That's where they are. And so if you look at this graph, then it's the section from about 9 o'clock till 12 o'clock, which is general science. And even that, the sciences, really could be in a college of agriculture too. So on the first slide, I said, is it a question of terminology? Now I want to go to this next part right here. And I skipped it right here. Let's see. Okay, then at the tribal colleges and universities, these are the land grant mission offices. And so the question at the top becomes, is it really a question of terminology? Because when you get to the land grant mission offices, 20 of the 26 programs out there are in agriculture. So people are working along the same lines, but they may not be calling it the same things. So we looked at the here's the portion. I don't know if you can see my cursor moving, but this is the portion of agriculture and environmental science, and the little pizza slice up there is oh, I think I went the wrong way. Oh no, did I go too far? I think it's Tony's turn right there, or Carly's turn.
That's okay, Joe. We got you. So, Tony.
Yes, hello. Silhawk Squinshootin' Sutitskwa. Hello, my name is Tony Stanger McLaughlin, and I am a member of the Colville Confederated Tribes. And I am also a proud tribal college graduate. I went to Haskell. So thank you all for joining us today. And we really want to let you know that you not only can access our fundings as a tribal college individually, but also you can apply through the college fund. So either way, there's a couple different opportunities for you guys to get into our funding portal. But we're going to run through these slides, and we're going to run through them pretty quickly to, and then we'll leave time for question and answers. So our allowable use of funds, we do, if you go onto our website and you look at our trust agreement, there are a couple sections that talk about what we can and cannot fund. And our focus areas are business assistance, agricultural education, technical support, and advocacy services. And all of these are not specifically, they're broad. We don't have a tight definition of any one of these. We leave them broad on purpose so that they're all encompassing. And when we say, as Joe has discussed earlier, when we say agriculture, we're also talking about our subsistence culture is part of that agriculture. So these are some of the slides that Joe created as far as talking about what is agriculture in that term and how can it be flexible. And you guys already have programs that are technically agriculture, whether you know it or not. We do have a couple universities that do have agriculture programs that Joe was able to locate.
Okay, and I listed these by state, so most of wherever your tribal college is, your state's going to come up in the next couple of slides, and you'll see that the land grant institutions themselves, the 1862s, which we normally view as kind of rigid, they've had to change. They've had to broaden their scope, decentralize the sciences, and or address other realities in their states. So, you know, you look at Alaska, they're doing fisheries and ocean sciences right off the bat. I was working with someone in Northern California, and they were one of the Fisher tribes, and they were talking about how agriculture was their enemy because in his conceptualization, agriculture was the land agriculture, and he wasn't thinking of fisheries and ocean studies or anything like that as part of agriculture, but it's all included. And if you just look real quick, there's Arizona and Arkansas and Colorado and Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, New Mexico. They've all changed their names to try to adjust to the current realities of what's going on in the broadened discipline of agriculture. And so language doesn't have to be a problem here. With the tribal colleges guiding their relationship with any of the state universities, their opportunities exist for these kind of partnerships, even if it's just with their extension people, because all of the 62 universities maintain some form of systemic cooperative extension or facilities for institutional research. And so it seems like they're kind of changing, but I don't think that they realize the charge within the term. But if you take ownership of the relationship, it could go a long way with some of the 62s. It's not forced upon you, but if it's something of interest, there it is. It's sitting out there. Tony?
Okay, more back to our allowable use of funds. And again, like all of you, we're dealing with alternative work environment. So I'm sorry about my background noise. I'm in an office, but there's other people here. We're trying to adapt just like a lot of our potential grantees are right now. And we understand that. So we are trying to make sure that you have the ability to apply given the circumstances of COVID-19. All right, back to our trust agreement. It's on our website, and that's kind of just like, it's like our constitution almost. It's what we can and cannot do. It's how we were established. All of our projects are 12, 18, or 24-month projects, and for the funds can go towards project support, scholarships, re-grants, loans, or capital expenditures. NAAF cannot loan to individuals, but anyone who receives our funding as an eligible entity can then re-grant in a form of a grant or a loan to individuals. NAAF just can't, is prohibited from doing that. I'm trying to click. Ooh, let me go back one. Our 2020 funding areas, they changed just slightly from last year's funding process. We still have a targeted area. Our special emphasis area, we changed. Last year we had a special emphasis area for hemp, and we are still funding hemp, but we're doing that. We're moving hemp into some of our other areas as opposed to its own set aside. And this year we've replaced that with agricultural extension. And extension, we'll talk more about those later. We also separated our youth application, and we extended the timeline that you could apply for that and the amount of funding for youth funding. And if you are an eligible organization, you can apply for all of the funding areas that are open. And right now we have our 2020 General RFA and our 2020 Youth RFA, and you can apply for both of those. For our educational organizations, in our RFA, if you read through our full RFA, you can see the idea of where we want the funding to go, or where it could serve, but you can also get creative in this. And if you have a better idea, or if you have a process that we need to overcome in order for you to utilize these funds, please let us know. But right now, the areas that we're seeking funding are for food and agricultural classroom training, classroom education programs, agricultural programs and professional degrees in ag, law, veterinary, engineering, but also in some of those other areas that Joe had shown earlier, areas that you already have in your programs, like conservation, our fisheries, natural resources. Those can also be encompassed in here. Scholarships and curriculum development, applied research, and topics important to the success of Native farmers, ranchers, including career technical training. So some of our universities can use on-site farm training, and we're not seeking that whoever's teaching this has to have a degree. If you're a farmer or you're in traditional foods and you're a practitioner in that area, and you've done it for all your life, then you likely have more to offer than someone who just graduated but has, a PhD behind their name. So know that it doesn't have to be a professor per se, that we're open to technical training. So it could be, different types of veterinary assistantships, horseshoeing, that type of thing as well. The projects can provide community technical assistance or other activities related to building the success of Native farmers and ranchers. Everything that we do has to support Native farmers and ranchers. The educational activities and technical support need to be available to Native students, and they have to serve Native students. This funding is private funding. However, the funding derived from a class action for discrimination against Native American farmers and ranchers. So all of our funding, we are trustees of this fund, and we need to make sure that it's serving Indian country. You can seek funding and support for food sovereignty, food access, subsistence activities, as well as agricultural science related to food and agriculture. And we've gotten a lot of questions about recently, food security being really important to communities during a time like now. Our educational orgs that through targeted funding, there's a total pool of 2 million in this area, and there's no upper limit or lower limit in the amount that you can request, but we do ask, don't apply for the entire pool. It makes it difficult for us when we are scoring the applications, and it also makes it another step for you, because then if you are awarded, we're going to come back and say you didn't get the full 2 million. Now you have to readjust all of your application to the new amount that we're awarding you. For instance, if a CDFI asked for $1 million and they got 300,000, it really changes their goals and objectives. So apply for the amount that you think you can do during your grant period. This special emphasis funding, there's 4 key special emphasis areas: traditional foods and food sovereignty, youth programming, and again, that's in its own process or portal, the agricultural extension, and advocacy. And NAAF will provide $1 million in each of these special emphasis areas. Funds can range from $50,000 to $100,000 in the traditional food and food sovereignty area. And these areas are about scaling up. They can be about expanding the scope. They can also be about working with existing food sovereignty assessments that you might have already started, or complementing those, or anything related to evolving your traditional foods and protecting them, for instance, issues associated with COVID. So advocacy isn't really part of our tribal colleges specifically, but it can be depending on what type of program you have. And this advocacy is in the past, we had a law group that applied for it, a nonprofit group that supports farmers and ranchers, but we cannot lobby, we cannot support litigation, but we can support awareness and education associated with the needs and issues that Native American farmers and ranchers face. And so we are hoping that this advocacy funding can go towards some of those purposes. So again, that has an area of $1 million for that special emphasis advocacy area. And again, it's about education, about promoting the needs of Native farmers and ranchers and overcoming the obstacles that they face. Our youth programming, it has its own, we call our grants processes, and it's its own process, it's its own grants. So if you go on to apply, you will have an opportunity to see both the General RFA and the Youth RFA. You can click and apply for both, but perhaps you only want to go after youth funding. And this funding in the past it's been pretty broad. All the different places that we have had applications from. It could be 4-H, it could be buying livestock for youth, starting their own businesses. It's been related to traditional foods, to small gardening, but this amount has been increased this year. And again, the time period has been extended, and we are going to review these applications on a rolling basis. Agricultural extension. This is our new special emphasis area for this year. We added this area this year because last year we had anticipated doing or supporting more extension work, but we had an impediment in our application where we required the lead had to be a tribal extension, and some universities had policies that prohibited that. So we've opened it up this year, and we have made sure that our application isn't so black and white, and that if there is an issue where you need a certain different division to apply within your university, then we're amenable to that. But our agricultural extension for special emphasis is seeking applications for TCUs and land grant institutions and other eligible organizations who are focused on education, research, and extension, or knowledge through community-based supportive activities, and they wish to focus on building agricultural extension efforts and working directly with farmers, ranchers, food people within their communities that meet the needs of Native agriculture today and moving forward. And these extension-related services for Native farmers and ranchers and food champions have always been skeletal. We understand the issues with agricultural extension. I know Janie and I have personally advocated for extension for years in Washington, D.C. And we're just trying to create a space where extension isn't competing against each other, where agricultural extension is able to share their knowledge and information with other universities, and to make sure that our extension staff is has more long-term stability in their planning, and redefining what extension is in Indian country instead of waiting on Washington, D.C. or the Department of Agriculture to do that for us. So this is our idea for the 21st century Native agricultural extension system, and we hope that these funds can help. There's a pool of $1 million. And again, NAAF is not requiring any particular faculty or institution be the lead on the application. We do want to support tribal colleges. We don't want this funding to be going to our larger universities and disappearing. So there are some restraints on our budget template to make sure that the funding stays where it's supposed to go for its intended purpose. So some points to consider in your application: the scope and nature of the services previously provided to Native farmers and ranchers, the scope and nature of the services you plan to provide to Native farmers and ranchers with award funds, and how to request award amounts that fit within the overall budget of the organization, and how to work, how the work integrates community accountability and Native leadership. Our applicants are, you do not have to be a Native organization to apply for this funding, but the purpose and where the funding goes, it needs to go to Native farmers and ranchers, and it needs to, we need to have records of that, and we have within our application that this is Native led. They want to make sure that the purposes that you describe in your application and your award are what you actually do, but throughout your the length of your grant. So if you have a 12-month grant, then we have quarterly reporting, and we as trustees of this funding want to make, as employees of this trust, want to make sure that this funding is going to Indian country where it's supposed to go. But we are, like I said, private. We are not federal funding. We don't have as many mandates in our funding. So we are flexible. For instance, we had so many 2019 applicants that had to change how they are going to conduct their 2020, how they're going to conduct the grants that they had through this fiscal year after this pandemic. So we had organizations, we had higher education at organizations, that institutions that had intended to go out and do field training, and they've had to change to do online training. And so we're adaptable and we will work with all of our grantees. So these are some of the other areas that we look at in evaluation. All of this information is found within our RFA. So again, some of our area for review: proposed results, farmer rancher demand, team organization and capacity and collaborators. This case was based on the lack of access to credit and credit servicing. So we do have a question within our application that talks about access to credit. evaluation, how you will let us know the success of your project, and if the project is innovative, and then can others learn from this and be able to replicate that in their community. We do have some mandatory documents. All of our documents need to be uploaded by PDFs. We have within our larger webinar, and we'll talk about it later in this slide, where we show you how to upload the documents and what your screen will look like. We know that right now some of your offices are closed, and you don't have any plans for resuming in the near future. So if you can send us a copy of some of your required documents during our review process, we can use those while we await final signatures, our original copies of documents. We do ask for your tax information, and part of your eligibility is to show that if you're a nonprofit, your nonprofit status, but your EIN document requesting your tax number is not a sufficient document in itself. We need another document stating that your status has been granted. There we go. The use of funds, there are 3 areas. The purpose provides the assistance designed to further Native American farming and ranching. The purpose is what it was set forth in the application, and the purpose is encompassed within 170C2B of the Internal Revenue Code. And so this is for our eligibility documents. And we are a nonprofit, and we have to protect our nonprofit just like anyone else. And so we need to make sure that there's no fraud involved in the funds that we are distributing. So we do have some project budget tips, and you can go online and you can see all of our documents and all of our application questions. We also have the following templates in samples that you can view on our website and within the application itself when you're applying. We have a budget template that you use. You fill in the blank and upload it. We try to make this as easy as possible. We tried to change some of our questions last year that seemed repetitive. We've condensed some of our questions to checkbox questions or yes/no questions instead of asking you to fill out a narrative. And in our budget, again, we said don't ask for the whole amount in that area, please. We did have a few of those applications. We actually had one application that asked for the entire 10 million. But we want to make sure that we are trying to use these funds and get them out to any country as broadly as possible. So we are going to keep that into account when we're reviewing your application. But we did have some applications that contrary to that. We thought this is an amazing project. We really wish they would ask for more funding. So try to find, that middle ground where you're getting enough funding for whatever projects you want to apply for, but not ask for too little or too much. We do have separate columns for year 1 or year 2. Again, our grants cannot exceed 2 years. We do have project narratives that are associated with each area or a project you're applying for. So if you're applying for targeted funding, then you'll have a budget for that and a budget narrative. If you're applying for 2 special emphasis areas, then you'll also have those 2 areas where you will fill out this same information. Okay, some other budget tips. Don't forget to wrap your text. Our budget template is in Excel, and so we don't want you to cut off any of your important information. Check the math. Make sure your number columns are visible. Again, it has to be, every upload has to be in PDF. We do have some restrictions on our budget, but overall, this is not as arduous as a federal budget application for any type of federal funding. Janie and our lead director have a lot of experience administering federal grants and also applying for them, so they try to make our budget as easy as possible for you. Our budget categories include personnel and our direct costs. And one thing that's unique with our funding is we can fund salaries. Our meeting and travel are part of those direct costs. Supplies, consultants, printing, any of those can be included in our budget. We have intermediary funds, re-grants, loans, and scholarships. We ask that you be specific concerning the costs associated with re-granting or lending scholarship activity. And we also have a cap on indirect costs set at 15%. Okay, now how to apply. This is a screenshot of our website, and all this information is found on our website. There's multiple areas where you can apply on our website, but we have this click here to get started section. So the presentation will start, or the application will start where you will get a link to our grant software. And you can click the Start Application button. You can also read through all of the questions on our website prior to applying. We do have those saved, so if you want to just see what the application looks like, go to our website and you can see that in a PDF format. We have those uploads available. But once you click to get started and find our logon information, this page right here on the right is what our logon page looks like. You will enter a username, or you will create a username and a password. Your username will be your email. So make sure whoever is logging in, use the email. The person who's logging in is the person who's going to be, that their email is attached to this for here on out. You cannot change that individually. We have to change that. So just make sure whoever you want in the system is the person that's going in right here that sees this logon page and creates it, because that person's email is going to be associated with this, and as opposed to our just a general username, maybe your university name, and then a password that you guys set up to work on this. You can work collaboratively, but one person needs to get in here first, establish the username, and then they can click the collaborate button. Creating a new account is a multi-step process, and you can see all of the questions that we ask about your organization. The EIN and tax number you do not need to continue in this application, but we will ask for it again before final submission. Sorry about that background noise. Once you have entered your username, you will then be the main person in this system. And last year they called, the title of that was the person was signing authority, and we had a lot of confusion. So we took signing authority out this year, and we replaced that with contact person, because we had people that were putting in their chairman's email as the main email, but their chairman of their tribe doesn't check their email. Maybe they didn't even know that this application was fully in the system. The same with maybe putting the president of your college or the dean of your department. We will have a place in our final grant agreement for their signatures, but right now to get into this process to fill out the application, we don't need that higher authority. We just need a main point of contact, somebody that's going to check their emails often. This is the rest of the application, where you will put project contact information, signing authority questions, signing authority information, and finally your password. Once all this has been complete, you will receive an email confirming that you have created an account. And once this account is created, we really want to make sure that you check that email to make sure that you got that confirmation, because this is the way that you get into the system. So if your email is wrong and you go back to visit the page, you're not going to be able to get in. It also is the way that we communicate with you after you receive a grant or during your application process. After you've completed your application, your background information, you will go to your dashboard, and your dashboard has an apply button. And right here you can see every RFA has a summary, and it also has a blue apply button. So right now you're seeing the 2020 general, but there's also underneath you have the option to scroll down and you can see the youth process. You just can't see it on this page right now, but you apply for those separately. You'll return to your dashboard and click the apply button again in order to apply for youth if you apply for the general first, or vice versa. Again, after all of this information for your organization is completed, you will have a final apply button or submit button. All of this information, these areas are called groups. So all of these groups have their own questions inside of them. And depending on how many projects you apply for, you will see more groups of questions appear. This is our section I referred to earlier about your uploaded documents. This is just a sample of what we have. If it's in blue, you can click on it. It will either take you to a link or it will download to your computer. So any of those templates or summaries, samples, those will automatically download to your computer. You can fill them out and then save them. And we do have a 2020 PA org name. We do have a way that we want you to save it so that we can just make sure that your budget template will consistently, when we pull it up, we know that it's yours and not somebody else's, because otherwise we will have 150 of 2020 RFA budget template. So we ask that you do put your org name when you're uploading and saving those documents. Then you have an upload file. Last year we had a lot of issues with the character limit and the size limits of what people could upload or fill in. We have doubled, in some places quadrupled that. We should not have an issue on space this year, but please don't wait till the last minute, because if, for instance, you realize that you cannot upload a document because it is too big and we're closing, we're probably getting 100 other phone calls. So people saying the same thing. Last year we had a handful of applications leading up to our closing date, and by the end of the night we had hundreds more. So please try to get all these documents uploaded before our closing date. And if you do have an issue, then we can help you beforehand. We just can't help you the minutes up leading to closing. This is what your dashboard will look like, and depending on how many applications you have in the queue, you will see them in draft form or submitted form. And you can't see it here on this, but you will have an apply button at the top left of your dashboard. But any information that you need to that we need to communicate to you, we will do so in this system, and you will see it on your dashboard. If there is an email, it will come through Foundit. If there is a follow-up that we need from you, or a document that we're going to upload to share with you, all of it you will eventually be able to see in your dashboard. If you applied last year for our funding, you will use the same login that you used last year, and if you need to change that, let us know. And your application should be easier because we have a thing this year where you can do copy process. So any question that you asked last year that we have this year, it will automatically migrate to your new application. You'll have to go in there and change dates and likely names and such, but everything that you had in your file last year will automatically be uploaded into your new application. And you can see some of the tabs here. This is another copy of a dashboard. where you see documents, one, follow-ups. A lot of our communication will come back to you in the form of a follow-up. So you will be able to see all of that in your dashboard. Our critical dates, we launched the 2020 RFA and Youth RFA on April 1st. They close on June 1st, but if you are dealing with issues related to COVID 2019, you have a 2-week extension that you can apply for. You need to request that extension, even in the form of an email or a phone call to us, some way to solidify that you are requesting that prior to our the end of our closing date. But if you request that extension prior to June 1st, then you have an additional 2 weeks. Again, this is our website, www.nativeamericanagriculturefund.org/grants. And if you go there, you will find all of our documents and information in order to apply. And then we have a general email at grants@nativeamericanagriculturefund.org. We do prefer online applications, but we are prepared to accept paper applications. And we have that address, Attention Grants Team, 534 West Research Center Boulevard, Suite 220, PO Box 1427, Fayetteville, Arkansas 72701. And that information is also available on our website. We do have 2 more webinars, one on Thursday, May 21st and one on May 28th. Our webinars are, if you've already gone through a lot of the application questions that you'll find on our general webinars, but they're the crucial part of our webinars that make them fluid and important are our Q&As, and they change every webinar depending on who's on the line, who's asking a question, who's already submitted a question. And so even if you don't intend on hanging out for the full hour leading up to the Q&A of our webinar, tune into the end to that Q&A section. Our phone number is 479-445-6226, and we do have that line available Monday to Friday, 8 to 4 Central Time. You can leave a message. We have a really, really great system on communications, so we will get back to you in a timely manner and answer your questions. So, Q&A.
Thank you, Tony. Before we turn to questions, I'd like to invite either of our guests from American Indian College Fund to chime in with anything they want to add here.
This is Kendra, and thank you again for inviting us. I did have a question. The College Fund, as you had mentioned earlier, we are also actually applying as a nonprofit to NAAF and anticipate being a grantee to provide additional funds and support. And so I'm wondering if a TCU applies individually, and then we have a relationship with them and they apply, or we actually target them for invitation, are they able to apply through both NAAF and the College Fund for funding provided through this grant?
Thank you for the question. So we limit organizations, eligible entities, to 1 application per year. So as the lead applicant, the community TCU could only submit 1 application for themselves. But if we make a grant to American Indian College Fund, we do not control who you make a grant to. So yes, the situation could exist where they apply for their own grant through NAAF. Awards are made, they are awarded something in which they are the lead and they have a fiscal relationship with us directly. And then American Indian College Fund on their own is awarded a grant and they have a relationship with us. And then after that, if they decide to do re-grants or loans or scholarships, we don't control who those go to.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That's also a great way to kind of leverage the project. So we encourage you to work with other organizations, and apply for federal funding to expand whatever the initial project idea might be or the service that you want to provide to that community. So.
Mhm. So this is Kendra from the College Fund. So I would go ahead and add that with that in mind, that if there's any TCUs on the line right now that are applying and that might later apply through the College Fund, to just kind of keep that in mind so that we can have a conversation about leveraging opportunities that you're applying for, things that you're working on, in addition to something that you might apply from through the College Fund, so that we're just strengthening the work that you're doing, and not making it too cumbersome as well.
Kendra, did you ask your other question that you had regarding the education or program enhancement around egg policy?
Oh, yeah. So I did have another question because you had mentioned at some point the piece around kind of like lobbying and things like that. And so I was wondering then if a TCU wanted to support educational, like a programmatic enhancement, education or programmatic enhancement around agricultural policy, is that something that this funding or some portion of this funding would support?
So yes, that would fit under the targeted educational organizations. We tried to be very broad in the types of agricultural programs that you might offer at your colleges and universities. Everything from agricultural sciences and animal science and pre-vet to agriculture policy or pre-law. I think it's not missed out that the Native American Agriculture Fund is led by a group of agricultural lawyers. So we know that ag law and policy are important. So that could certainly be part of your proposal in that targeted educational organizations arena. I think the special emphasis category for advocacy is really focused on projects that can deliver research and support for the Native Farm Bill Coalition within the grant period of 1 to 2 years. And so it would just be a strategic decision from your end about where your ag policy project would best fit.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. So attendees, I would invite you to send us some questions. If you have any, please do. While we're here, I'm just going to quickly share my screen. And we have, I hope you're seeing the 2020 request for applications website here. If you find the tractor, you're in the right spot. This is where you can find all of our information. Up top, we have the deadline. But if you scroll down, this yellow button is where you download the RFA overview. It's a 20-some page document that describes everything in detail. Please start there. Then when you're ready to apply, come over to the red button, Start Online Application. It's really simple to make an account like Tony showed and to get in and start answering your questions. We spent a lot of time trying to streamline this application, and we're welcome to feedback from what you find to be helpful or useful or cumbersome. Down here, each of these bolded areas is a different section, so you can click through and find more information. The one I want to pull your attention to is called Downloads. Each of these underlined typings are PDFs that you can open that will help you in this. They're also located in the online grant system as those blue links that Tony was calling out. Webinars are hosted here, and then if you go to this link, you see all of our recordings, and then finally we have some FAQs. These are getting to be pretty extensive as we build them up over 2 years, but we're always welcome to answer questions that we haven't seen before. Do we have any questions from our panelists? Our attendees have not submitted any.
I just wanted to add that don't feel like you are competing against maybe other nonprofits or a tribe that you want to serve. Think of you applying and them applying as adding to each other and complementing each other. I know that my community last year our tribe thought that we were going to apply, or that they wanted to apply, and they ended up not applying. But the WSU extension, their tribal lead applied for funding, and they were actually successful. And so they weren't competing against the tribe. They ended up being able to serve the tribe's communities, their needs, because the tribe just decided or couldn't get their application in. And also, we talked to another tribal college last week where they were the fiscal sponsor for the tribe, that we do require a waiver of immunity in order to apply for our tribes and also for some of our state universities, in the event that we do have to retrieve funding. But we spoke with one applicant that was originally a tribal applicant. They weren't able to secure their limited waiver of immunity, so they looked to their tribal college to become their fiscal sponsor, and they were successful in switching over to a fiscal sponsor tribal college. But we let the tribal college know, just because you're acting as a fiscal sponsor doesn't mean that in the future you can't apply yourself. So we hope to see applications where tribes and tribal colleges or organizations are working together.
This is Dr. Graham. I'd like to add to that individual tribal colleges, both AHEC and American Indian College Fund are good umbrella organizations, but they can't cover everything. So we'd like to get more applications from individual tribal colleges. Some people are working on some very disparate stuff, and it's really interesting. So we'll look forward to getting more applications in.
Joe, I think that's a great segue to the next thing I want to point out is that we have had some successful TCU applicants. So let's highlight those. If you're still seeing my screen, I'm going to go to grantees, 2019 grantees. We had 80 organizations in 2019 who were successful, including American Indian College Fund. You can see them displayed here on the map, but we have 3 TCUs that I'll highlight over, and folks from ICF can help me. Chandeshka Chicana Community College, maybe. So out of Fort Totten, North Dakota. The next one was College of Menominee Nation in Wisconsin. And then finally we had Dene College. So these are your peers. They were successful in this. You can reach out to them. We also had American Indian Higher Education Consortium. So please take a look at our past grantees. 2019 was our first round. When you go here, you'll also see Fast Track. That was a group of grantees that were awarded before NAAF was created, but we have inherited them and are proud of their work as well. And we have tribal colleges and universities represented here. So this is really open. We have some that have been successful. We'd love to see more applications from you.
Carly, this is Kendra. I have a question really quick, and I'm not sure if you can really answer it or not, but you had mentioned not to apply for the entire amount, but I'm wondering if there is an average that you've seen or an average that you've seen awarded in terms of like where tribal colleges can think about kind of like a minimum maximum that could be like, I guess, recommended or maybe a starting point for them.
Yeah, thank you for that question. We hear that one quite a bit. We've left it open because we don't want to, we've left it open in some categories, for example, targeted educational, because we don't want to stifle any creativity. If the budget matches the mission and the service and the impact, we're willing to look at it, but it's doubtful that any one organization would take the full amount because we think it's really important to spread this money across the country. A good reference guide is this page that I talked about. So if you find the potatoes and the maple syrup, you're on the 2019 grantees page, and each of these tells you how much they were awarded. So let's just go to those TCUs from last year. Here we have a $74,000, almost $75,000 grant for Spirit Lake Dakota Nation Community College there, and it tells you a little bit about what they're doing. The next one is College of Menominee Nation, was awarded $336,000. They came in from multiple categories. You can see what they're doing here. And then finally, Dene College is 155,000. So that's a broad range there. We had 75,000, 155,000, 300,000. We review these applications through the lens of if we support a project, even if we need to modify the budget, we will support that project. So feel free to request what you think is reasonable and what you need over a 1 to 2 year period. But don't be scared that if you come in a little high that we're going to throw it out all together. We'll just come back and ask for modifications. But as Tony said, that takes more time on your end. So the idea is what's a reasonable request for you? And then we will take that and come back to you with what we can offer. So if you're still with us, if you want to submit a question, you can do so in the questions box. We don't have any at this point, so I just throw it back to my panelists for any final words.
Hi, Carly. This is Emily Whitehead. I just want to thank our tribal college partners for attending today, for taking your time to do this. Please feel free to also reach out to Kendra or myself at the College Fund as you go through the process. And if there's anything we can do to support you, we'll be happy to have a conversation about that. But we, again, really encourage everybody to apply for a grant and to really reach out to NAAF with any questions that you have. Thank you.
Tony or Joe?
No, thank you all for joining.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad so many people were on the call.
Kendra?
I just want to say thank you again for inviting us, and just to reiterate what Emily said, which is that if you have any questions, then I'm happy to be supportive however I can, but obviously you all are probably going to be able to answer some more specific questions, but we're here to be supportive, especially if we have existing relationships with anyone on the line, and can be helpful. So thank you.
Thank you all. And we had a question come in. I'm so excited. So let me read it out. Is it possible to apply as a collaboration, for example, partnering with other TCUs? The answer is yes. We actually, one of our areas of review is collaborations and capacity. The question there that you would need to establish is who is going to be the lead applicant, because we are only going to establish a fiscal relationship for that grant with one organization. So the money would be transferred to one organization, and that lead applicant would then be responsible for re-granting and distributing to their partners. So that is especially welcome. And if you have any questions about how to set up that arrangement or anything about fiscal sponsoring, let us know.
Carly, this is Kendra. I wanted to add one thing if I can.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I would add is that if people want to discuss examples of the work or just kind of troubleshoot through the application, then I am happy to do that. We do have some pretty good examples of work that has been done at tribal colleges in the area of food sovereignty and food systems. And so just to kind of like get additional ideas or insights or examples, I am available for those kinds of conversations.
Excellent. And another question, will you share the slides with participants on this webinar? Yes. So it takes about an hour for the recording to process. Once it's finished, I will upload it on YouTube and post it to our website along with the slides. So if you see my screen here, I'll show you exactly how to get there. Just hover over grants and go to webinars. Once this page loads, you'll see our regular webinars and our regular PDF, and then we'll have the recording of today's webinar. And right beside this button, I'll add another one that says TCU webinar PDF. So you'll be able to access that starting tomorrow on Thursday. And if you don't find your way to it, feel free to send us an email directly to grants@nativeamericanagriculturefund.org, and we'll attach it to that email. Okay, so I'm really excited that we got a few questions. Thank you to those folks. Reach out to us at any time. We're happy to work with you. Again, the deadline for the general process, which covers all of the targeted areas, advocacy, agricultural extension, and traditional foods and food sovereignty, is Monday, June 1st, 11:59 p.m. Central Time. And youth application is open on a rolling basis until September 30th. Okay, folks, thank you for joining, and we will sign off. I hope that you have a wonderful day and keep being resilient in this difficult time.
Thank you.
Thank you.